So we're looking at Kevin Can F Himself, Season 1, Episode 7, which is supposedly set in Worcester, Massachusetts. But as we've talked about in previous videos, this is set in all sorts of other places and not in Worcester. And Worcester is such an amazing town, and for example, this tunnel we're about to go into Worcester was filmed in the Black Panther 2 movie and in The Honest Thief and a bunch of other things. So there's all sorts of amazing places in Worcester that they could have used. I also want to say that up until this episode, I really hadn't been connecting with the show, mostly because I was so annoyed by the Kevin sitcom types of sections that I would have to skip over them. I mean, I'd have to watch them for the first time to be able to get through this, but I then just fast forward through them because I found them annoying and unuseful and all that kind of stuff. And finally, in this episode, we're primarily in real characters doing real things, and I'm enjoying it more. So I wish there had been a better balance throughout the series so that we didn't have as much of the stupidity of the Kevin parts. I know they have to have it in a little bit to be able to tell the story they're telling, but they didn't need to put as much as they had. So anyway, on with episode 7 and the scenes in here. One of the first Worcester type of references is they're going to be firing Nick here, and they talk about sending him back to Walpole. I really like this reference a lot because the place is no longer called Walpole. It is now called the MCI Cedar Junction Prison, but everyone calls it Walpole. And it's actually going to be shut down soon. And if we want to go back in history, this used to be one of the most violent, if not the most violent, prison in the entire United States. So this was a really notorious location, all sorts of murders and other kinds of problems. And they finally did clean it up a bit. And like I said, now they're shutting it down because apparently we don't have as many criminals, or maybe, I'm not quite sure, maybe we've built enough prisons in the area to handle the criminals that we have. But in any case, MCI Cedar is not what anyone in the area calls it. We call it Walpole, and I thought it was really nice that they referred to it as Walpole. It's a little strange that they'd be sending him back to Walpole when they're shutting it down, but we'll let that go. Maybe he's going to go to Walpole and then be transferred somewhere else. So next up we have Allison being questioned by the police, and I really like the texture of the walls here, and out the window you can see the same kind of texture. It's got a very brutalist kind of feel to it. And if you've ever seen the Worcester Police Station down in the center of Worcester, right alongside Route 9, you'll understand why that's the perfect feel for the kind of room that she'd be interrogated in. This is what the Worcester Police Station looks like. As a young person in Worcester, this thing just looked incredibly intimidating. This is called the brutalist style of architecture. I think you could probably guess why. It was built in 1971, and in the late 60s there were quite a number of famous riots, not in Worcester but in other parts of the country. So when they were constructing this, they undoubtedly had all those kinds of riots in mind, so that they built something that, I mean, you can't drive into it. There's no windows at all on the bottom part of it. The windows are all up high, and it's got a very fortress-like kind of feel to it. So if she's going to be in somewhere being interrogated, somewhere full of concrete and hard edges is definitely the right place. Now, clearly she wasn't actually in a room in the Worcester Police Headquarters, but I think they did a very good job of giving the feel for what it would be like. Has been singing karaoke at Sully's in Worcester, or in the Worcester area, and now he thinks he's going to be a rock star, and this drives a lot of the rest of this episode's plotline. So there are two places in Worcester that you think of when you think of Sully's. The first place is Sully's Dog Shack, which no longer exists. It got closed down in Dudley. But for the Worcester Hot Dog Safari, Sully's Dog Shack was always a place with a great reputation, and it's sad that they're no longer around. But this is definitely somewhere someone would think about when they were thinking of Worcester and Sully's. Now, I don't think that they had karaoke at the Sully's Dog Shack, but that's all right. It was a fun reference anyway, and especially because we're going to see another Worcester Hot Dog Safari shirt soon enough in the episode, so I like that kind of reference. But there's one that's even better. A project that is very, very important to me is Project New Hope, and my boyfriend's band has played benefit gigs for them many times. It's to support local veterans, and the name of their food pantry is Sully's Food Pantry. Now, clearly this wouldn't have karaoke in it either, but I would like to say if anyone's in the Worcester area and you have some money that you'd like to donate to a charity, or you have extra food that you'd like to donate, please keep the Project New Hope in mind, because we definitely want to support veterans who have done so much to help protect us. the police detectives are interrogating her still and talk about Neil, the friend, and the intruder both being on the same hockey team at Burncoat. Burncoat is a local high school. It's very well known in Worcester, so it's fun that they mention that. You can see Burncoat High School there in the list of the locations in Worcester, and they do in fact have a hockey team. So it makes a lot of sense that these people would have gone to Burncoat, that they would have played hockey together. Hockey is really popular in Worcester. And we had talked a episode or two ago about the hockey teams in Worcester, the Sharks and the Ice Cats and so on. And I thought it was really cool once they mentioned this and that Neil had played hockey, that if you look back at that previous scene where they're hanging out in the bar, Neil had a Worcester Ice Cats hockey shirt on. So and like I mentioned at the time, Ice Cats is a fairly old team, so it's neat that he had that, and that shows that he's been a fan of hockey for a long time. It makes sense if he was a hockey player in high school that he would have been going to the Ice Cats games. So Neil's going out dumpster diving, and he's wearing his Worcester sweatshirt. So I appreciate the Worcester sweatshirt, but I even appreciate more in the background that Kevin Hart Centrum banner is still hanging off the side of the house. So I think that's pretty funny there. And then from this scene, he goes right next door, pretty much. He takes a little side stop at home, but he goes right next door. Kevin's wearing a New England versus everyone, but somehow Neil has changed into a Coney Island hot dog t-shirt. So I'm not sure how he did that quick change, but that's all right because I love the Coney Island hot dogs, as I mentioned before. So it's nice that they brought back the Coney Island shirt and this new New England versus everyone. Well, that's sort of the way that the Patriots fans feel around here. Another shot of the diner, and I will comment that someone on Twitter said that this was right down the street from them in Randolph, and I've gone digging through all sorts of Randolph restaurant listings, and I can't find one that looks like this, so I'll still have to try to track down where this was actually shot, but clearly not in Worcester, and we'll just have to go with some random Randolph restaurant until I figure out where it was. And just if you're not sure, Randolph is a full hour away out to the east. So definitely not Worcester. And it's a shame they don't use Worcester diners. So I just have to let that go, I suppose. But I still would like to try to track down which the restaurant is just to be able to identify it. Clearly the fertility clinic is fake, but it is cute that they have Worcester Fertility Partners and have this whole logo and everything. So we'll give them kudos for going above and beyond, for coming up with a logo and signs everywhere for it. It's not real, but it's fun. I just want to say here, kudos to them for not putting the finger on the trigger, but negative points for having him pretty much pointed at his wife. So there's a good and bad in gun handling in this episode. And that sets us up for the climactic finale for Kevin Can F Himself Season 1. We'll have to wait and see what actually happened and how this is going to play out. So again, not any Worcester scenes, but a couple of Worcester references in there. And I did like, I still like this Centrum reference with the banner hanging there. It's cute that they threw in the hot dog safari and the Worcester shirts. Although pretty much everyone I've talked to at this point about do you wear Worcester shirts around have said no. But people will wear hot dog safari or band shirts or so on. And I'll mention that Patty's still wearing that black with red letters shirt that I can't figure out. So it must have some sort of meaning, and I'll just have to go back through all the episodes where she's wearing it and try to piece together what it says, because I'm curious. But we're about to watch the last episode of the season, so we'll see what that has to offer.